Welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. As I was gathering my stuff up today to sit down and do this video, I started pondering on the question of what is fiber arts. When I first joined in with a number of the social media forums, I discovered that there's quite a debate, and sometimes a heated debate, as to what is fiber arts versus what is textile arts. And it made me a bit confused, because I would think that a fiber art would be anything made out of fiber. But there seems to be the notion that if it is to be a fiber art, it needs to be made using fibers that are more in the raw form turned into something, like spinning wool or flax or any or even silk, taking something that's in its raw form and turning it into something that is then used in a craft, whether it is felting or whether it is knitting or crochet, versus a textile art, which is taking, often interpreted as taking a ready-made textile, a fabric, and turning that into a piece of art. All of it makes me think back to the arts and crafts movement of the late 1800s and early 1900s, and the motivation behind that movement. At the end of the day, for me, a fiber art is anything that uses, incorporates, and works with fiber. I stretch the definition quite a bit, because I kind of feel like there shouldn't be that hard lines. Multimedia, multimedium, there's the word, multimedium art, using different types of mediums, whether it is fiber, unprocessed fiber, whether it's a textile, whether it's a hard fiber like wood. Get that on the camera. Because it's a fibrous material, it's going to take the same dyes as my wool. So, I mean, technically, it's a fiber. Whether I'm using a hard fiber, a soft fiber, an unprocessed fiber, something that somebody else has woven, mixing and matching it, to me, it all falls under the notion of fiber arts. Because I think in this modern day, which is, it just seems like a bit of a arts and crafts movement again, fiber arts and textile arts, they overlap. There's no hard line. I keep seeing different things that are coming out of fashion runways that are using the same materials that I'm using when I'm embellishing a piece, when I'm working on creating something, and they're using wool, raw wool locks, and they're using it in a way that it's an embellishment on a textile piece. So I find it very interesting when people get upset, and I would imagine that there are very learned, schooled people that have justification as to why there needs to be hard lines. But in my world, working with fiber and fabric means that I can be pretty much combining anything that is a fiber concept. I do occasionally use synthetics, don't we all? But I'm not sure if that's more of a filament, I guess you would say. But nonetheless, I think that in the world of fiber arts, it's embracing all the different textiles and materials and using it for a purpose of creating something beautiful that we wear or that decorates our home. So yes, it's an arts and crafts movement, but maybe not with the same movement origins as the original one. Certainly, I would say that in the modern day, doing a lot of fiber and textile art, it's not inexpensive. It's not something that that is easy to do on a budget. It can be done, certainly. There is where there is a will, there is a way. But it's not exactly an inexpensive thing. And if I think back to the history lessons on the arts and crafts movement, that movement somewhat developed out of the notion that these craftsmen, these artisans and craftsmen that say, for instance, making the crocheted lace, oftentimes they made it, but they couldn't afford to wear it themselves. I believe even at a point there was laws pertaining to who could wear certain things. So today I've been thinking about these things because I have been down in the basement in the workshop trying something a little bit new. My husband has a woodworking tool. It's a CNC router and a laser cutter combo tool. It does plastic 3D models, but we haven't tried that yet because we're not really into plastic 3D models. Plus, we have old brains. We're taking one step at a time. And one of the things that, when working with these machines, is that you have to come up with the art. And I kept watching the videos showing how they came up with art. And I'm like, well, I can make those with my embroidery software. So I put together, put together this little embroidery software, saved it in an SVG file, or actually 2, took it over to the software to convert it, to tell it what to do in the laser cutting, and we made an ornament. There we go. There, oh, there we go. Bring it in close. So, it's something that I was really excited about. I posted it on Instagram. We had already figured out how to use the design that I drew up in my embroidery software to make this. It's a little wood trivet, or I guess it's a plaque. But what we do is we put it on the table, and then you can put hot pots and pans on it, or I should say warm out of the oven pots and pans. We have lots and lots of hot pads that go on the table, lots of crocheted cotton ones, some wool ones, but we kind of have an affinity to the beehive. Whoops, there we go. My daughter has some dessert dishes and stuff that she's collected that have bee motifs. So we did that, and that was all carved in with the CNC router, and then smoothed up a little bit with sandpaper in a Dremel type tool. So we were playing with that, and I was pretty excited, but we wanted to see where could we take it further. And we did try this design in the CNC router, but needless to say, we didn't get the settings quite right and didn't like the result. So instead we used the, there we go, laser. But I thought, well, how could I ratchet this up just a little bit for ornaments? Because this is not good enough. Even if I make little pillows, or I shrink this down and stitch this in, and I can embroider. And that's the whole idea, is to, if I take the time to digitize it, and this was a terrible, this was like snap, 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 not following any of the rules of making it really nice and easy to stitch out. But if I digitize something, being able to use it and take it into other areas would be wonderful. So we made this little design, and I thought, it needs something. So I went back to the embroidery machine, and using synthetic organza, because using synthetic organza means that it will melt like plastic when I want to cut it away. I have videos that have talked about using a heat tool to cut away organza. But I upgraded, let's go this way, upgraded my ornament. I put little lacy type snowflakes. And it's just glued on the back. And now I have on a glittery organza some snowflakes to hang on the tree. And it does. The organza, I don't think it's showing up in the camera. Let me get up really close here. You might, there we go. You can kind of see there's a little bit of an iridescent, a shine to it, a little bit of gold on it. So, I had a little bit of fun. I combined my embroidery software and my digitizing knowledge, and I created an ornament. This was all done yesterday morning before my husband and my daughter had to go to work in the afternoon. So, what in the world could I create if I actually took a little bit of time? So I have a feeling that you might be seeing some other fibery artistic endeavors in the upcoming months as we go into fall and get ready for the holiday season. But the main thing I wanted to come to talk about today was a question that I sometimes get asked whenever I show pictures of my hand quilting. And not that way. Let's put it over here, maybe. Maybe over here. Whenever I show pictures of my hand quilting on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm asked the question of what's that it's in, and it's in a hoop, and it's in a PVC hoop, and I use it if I really want to make sure that my tension is correct when I'm hand quilting. If I am just doing something small and simple and wanting to go pretty quickly, and I'm not too worried, I won't necessarily use a hoop. But now that I've been doing a lot more hand quilting again, I've been back to using the hoop and training myself to sit in a way to be able to get my arms around the hoop, and it does help. It does help keep it so you're not pulling the stitches too tight as you run the needle through and then pull it out. So I wanted to show you the current project that I'm working on. It is a quilt that I'm giving away to someone in my close here world. I think they have a child that's going to be a year old very soon, so I'm trying to get this done. So this hoop, it's made out of PVC. It's got the 4 sides. It comes in different shapes. It comes in rectangle and square. And it comes in 2 type of corners, the older style and a better style. If you look at the corners, this type of corner is nice and flat, and it's really lovely because the clasps don't get caught on it. These corners, the clasps get caught on, and when you're putting the clamp down and you hit that, it can stretch and break the clasp. Now, if you notice this guy, it's got little sheepy duck type tape, tape on it. And it's because if you hit these things, it will start to crack. And this is an older hoop that I have, and so the plastic was getting a little brittle, and it was starting to crack. So I reinforced it with some tape. But one of the things that I noticed, I wanted to show you, as I said, they come in different sizes. They can come really small. They're sold as embroidery hoops. I have a larger one, and I will use this larger one when necessary, that I'm really doing a larger block, and I do not want to rehoop it in order to get a large area of quilting. It's a little bit hard for me physically to hold as much anymore these days. So the rectangle works, the square works. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about with this is that when I started buying the new, these new hoops, they are definitely designed for the embroidery market. And these things are too tight. I was having a hard time getting them off without just sliding them off. So the problem is when you take it and you put it on something that has batting, 2 layers of fabric and batting, is that you can snap these, you can break them. So my suggestion, here's my tip when it comes to using PVC hoops, is get a thick towel, put a towel over the edge, get a heat gun or I think in a pinch you could use a hairdryer on a hot setting. Heat this up by just focusing the heat in here. Be careful, you can burn yourself. And then over the top of a towel, clamp it in place and let it cool. And what that does is it stretches it open. And the thickness of a towel gives you oftentimes just enough of an opening to make it so that you get a tight fit on this. If you ever want to shrink them back down for embroidery because you decided I'm not going to quilt but I want to do it for embroidery, or you've opened them up too much, if you heat them on this side, they tend to close back up. So heat going on the inside, they tend to open up. Heat going on the outside, they tend to close up. It's not an exact science, but you do it a few times until you feel like they're loose enough to go over your quilt sandwich. So that's the tip I have with using a PVC hoop. I have used the round wooden hoops. I do have a couple ovals that I've used in the past. I just find this to work really well. They're inexpensive enough. As you can see, I have multiples. I also have some on the quilt behind me. I have one over here. So I went ahead and purchased a few extras because I do have other quilters in my home, and they might snag them in the future. But I also decided, why not have enough that my multiple projects that are on hold can sit in the hoop? So yes, I'm too lazy to take them out of the hoop and use them. I'm hoping that if they're in the hoop and I'm seeing them in the hoop, I'm going, I need to pick that up and do a little quilting on that. But as the cooler temperatures arrive, a little tongue-tied, I'm hoping to have a little more time, a little more comfort sitting under a quilt and getting my projects done. There are some videos. I know that I've actually had some videos with my pithy patchwork projects that show doing some of the in and out of the quilting. So I won't include any of that. I'm sure as I've been speaking, I will pop up some pictures of what this quilt is I'm working on right now. I'm really excited about this. The person said that they are really into pink, and so their little girl's going to obviously be really into pink as well because Mom is. So there's a lot of pink. But I had this yellow that I really loved, and so I decided to combine it. I love it so much, it's really hard for me to give away. It's turned out quite well. I love the embroideries that I have placed on it. I'll have information down in the description as to where those embroideries are available for anybody who does machine embroidery. But that's what I've been working on. And just kind of having fun. I have to admit, this just made me really, really, really happy. And I went downstairs with my husband this morning before he went off to work again. And I had to apologize. I was having so much fun doing this. I had to run upstairs and do the next thing and had to share it on Instagram. I left a huge mess. So I think when I finish up this video, I may be going downstairs to either do a little bit more or clean up my mess. Yes, crafting in a house with multiple crafters. We do have to learn how to clean up after ourselves, but that can be for another day because the other two housemates work again tomorrow. So technically, I could leave it a mess for another day. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed seeing what I'm up to this week. And I hope that you're finding some joy in these times of difficulty and strife. I have to admit, when I woke up this morning, I wasn't really in the mood to make a video. But I thought to myself, if I sit down and I make this video, I know that by the time I'm done, I will feel rejuvenated. I will feel that there's hope, that there is a brightness, that there's excitement despite the clouds. And I do that. I do feel that way. So I thank you especially for those of you that have watched to this part of the video. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for following me on Instagram and Facebook. I do really enjoy the comments. I don't have a huge following, and that is perfectly fine. I do so appreciate those of you that comment, that even just hit like in any of the platforms. I hope that you are having a joyful day. I hope that you can find some time to unwind with fiber and fabric. Fiber of any kind. I hope that you find peace. We will see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.